Having dealt with that issue, I therefore call on Government Order of the Day number 9.
Kaikora Tai-Marokura Marine Management Bill, second reading.
Mr. Speaker.
I call the Honourable Minister, Dr. Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Kaikora Tai-Marokura Marine Management Bill be read a second time. Mr. Speaker, over the recess, I took my children to the Ohau Point area where the New Zealand fur seal exists in a truly beautiful spot. There was in a small creek over 100 visitors, families with children, watching a group of about 50 baby seals playing in a pond in a waterfall, which was that classical New Zealand visitor experience that's highlighted as one of the wonderful experiences in Lonely Planet in New Zealand. That visit reinforced to me the value in this Kaikora Marine Management Bill. It provides for a New Zealand fur seal sanctuary at Ohau Point. It provides for a whale sanctuary over that remarkable piece of coastline and ocean adjacent to the community of Kaikora. It provides for a new and significant marine reserve, the Hikarangi Marine Reserve. It provides for 5 customary fishing areas for Ngāi Tahu and the local runanga. And it also provides for, Mr. Speaker, a tightening and more sustainable approach to the recreational fishing along that treasured Kaikora coast. Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by acknowledging the hard work of Te Karawai. This is a process that's gone on for 20 years. The tensions were sufficiently strong, Mr. Speaker, 20 years ago when the early discussions where this community was at loggerheads over proposals for marine protection in Kaikora, and I want to pay tribute to every one of the members of Te Karawai that have come together with the proposals that are in this bill. I also want to acknowledge Colin King, the Member of Parliament for Kaikora. He advocated for these marine protection measures as a candidate, and it is fitting on a day in which he gives his valedictory speech that this Kaikora Marine Management Bill is to make further progress through the House. Mr. Speaker, well, unlike the Labour Party, the National Party is rejuvenating, Mr. Shearer, and we're bringing new, bright talent through the ranks, and that, well, I'm substantially younger than those members opposite, haven't hit the grand old age of 50 yet, and I can promise members opposite there'll be lots more good bills like this one in my name as we make progress not just on marine conservation and other issues. Mr. Speaker, I do want to acknowledge the work of the Select Committee, Ruth Dyson, of Labour, who has been very supportive, members of the Green Party who are supporting the bill, although I'm not surprised their typical rhetoric of it's never enough, but I do want to acknowledge their support and the agreement that's reached to enable us to be able to progress this bill forward. And I particularly want to acknowledge both those parties for their cooperation in allowing this bill to be progressed during the term of this Parliament. I actually think there's a pretty strong consensus across this Parliament that New Zealand has more work to do in respect of marine conservation and protection, and I think it is a maturity of this Parliament to enable this bill to be progressed given the long debate that has occurred. Mr. Speaker, with respect to some of the specific changes that have been made by the Select Committee in its hard work, and I want to acknowledge both Nikki Wagner and Maggie Barry for their hard work in bringing this bill back through. Firstly, proposal to change the name to Guardians of the group that will have an ongoing oversight around these new marine protection tools on the Kaikora coast. We have guardians for Lake Wanaka, we have guardians in Manaporu, we have guardians in areas like the Fiordland coastline, and I think it has been a good choice of the committee to use that term to aptly describe the ongoing role of the group that will be involved in providing an ongoing oversight of these new marine protection measures. I also have got to acknowledge that the Select Committee has tightened up the definition on the areas of the whale sanctuary, the New Zealand Furl sanctuary, the customary fishing areas and the marine reserve. It is a sign of technology, Mr Speaker, that previously we have not defined to more than a boundary of 10 metres, but the Select Committee has said actually with GPS technology today we can get a greater degree of accuracy even in the ocean environment, and so that is being tightened up with a definition down to just 1 metre for the boundaries of these new marine protection measures. The amendments by the Select Committee also clarify the role of the Minister quite sensibly, and they also provide a broader role for the Guardians to provide a role in education around the marine environment that I also think is important and is valued. Mr Speaker, I do note that in the Minority Report the Green Party has made the point that they would like the Marine Reserve to be bigger. And that's a view I understand. But I also say that where you have these collaborative processes and when you have a community that's heavily divided over marine protection, I think this Parliament needs to respect the trade-offs, the gifts and gains that they have made. And that is why the government is not prepared to arbitrarily overrule that process and to make the sort of changes to the boundary of the Marine Reserve that the Green Party has promoted in their Minority Report. Mr Speaker, the bill, as reported back from the Select Committee, provides for a review of these marine protection tools after a period of 25 years in a pragmatic and, in my view, actually pretty cooperative way in discussions with the Labour Party and the Green Party. It is my intention to introduce an SOP during the committee stages to bring that down to a period of 10 years. I've discussed that with Sir Mark Solomon, the chair of Ngāi Tahu. He too is happy for that compromise for enabling us to be able to progress this bill. Mr Speaker, much has been said about the Kaikora area. Few members recognise that the richness of the marine life in that Hikarangi Trench has been measured by scientists to be the most abundant marine life at depths greater than 1,500 metres anywhere in the world. In fact, the truly remarkable figure is about 100 times more species than the next second most abundant marine life, that I think reinforces the value of this marine protection tool. I also want to note this measure in the context of the debate around regional development, because if you ever wanted to see a rural town that was 25 years ago quite economically challenged, a town that was struggling, to a town that is truly blossomed, that is Kaikora, and the opportunities that the Whale Watch and other marine tourism experiences have added to this community. This bill is good for the environment. This bill is good for the economy. This bill sets a good precedent about the way in which we develop marine protection. It is the very first whale sanctuary that we have in New Zealand, the very first New Zealand fur sanctuary. It is also one where fishermen have already agreed and are practising the reduced recreational catch limits, and is a real model that other communities around New Zealand needs to look to as we take greater care of the ocean environment, and I commend the bill to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Ruth Dyson.
Mr Speaker.